I'm recording this just to talk about some of the patchwork devices and how I'm using them and how they are. I'm having problems with getting them to integrate easily, and maybe some features that could be added to them to make it easier to integrate and build up things besides just the basic devices. I'm going to grab the device and enable the character to have the device. Now I'm going to go here, and I have triggers here, and what that is, it set the triggers for the drum. But I'll go back to that later, showing it. So I just go ahead and pick. Well, it doesn't matter. How about we'll do something. We'll do classic break as a drum beat. So it does loop amen hip hop beat. But anyway, the and then I've got a bass, and so I didn't cover up the note names like I did with a plane in the first one, but I will eventually. So those would be names of the samples of the bass, and I'll just pick one randomly, kind of, and it'll start the bass, and so on. And I can do a lead, and so on. So these are all added through a Fusion sampler. I have a Fusion sampler for each sequence device here, and the Fusion sampler has, for each note, it's got a loop sample that I brought in. Because of that, I've added more than for drums, for example. We're sitting here, and what's going on here is it's just working regular now, but I've added more than 12 drum samples. I've added 30 some, and so well, I could change the octave, when I directly changed the octave before with the sequencer, and it would work just fine, but I could figure no way to change the names here because there's no signal that comes out of the sequencer for an octave change. There is for a note change. If I wanted to say every time you press this note, it would change it. But there's no way for me to change these note names. And I'll show you an example of changing the note names here. We'll go, in here and see how it changed this. And that's because I've got, what it'll do right here is it'll change the drums. The drums changed, as you heard there. And it also changed the names of the samples. And that's being controlled by a verse script of mine that's changing the texture that's showing on the material, and also sending, that when I stepped on trigger 2, it said it activated value setter 2 to go ahead and play. So the point I guess I'm trying to make here is that I figured a way to kind of do this, but I have to do a lot more than I'd like to have to do to get it done. It was nice. It would be nice if the octave, when you change the octave, it had for me, for this one application, it would send a signal out that I could trigger or a subscription that I could subscribe to, a triggered event. But I can't. So I've gotten around that again by just putting my own devices and my own triggers, and then on those triggers, change the octave with a value setter here, and that's what these wires are doing, and also change the names on my little sign here. So that's one of the things I discovered, and it would be neat if I could change it somehow. So that's how I'm using that. The other thing was I put it out in a post on the forum about, I'm sending them all to a single device, and because they're sending to a single device, it centers all the sound, And my two options I've decided are I can go back into the Fusion Sampler, because the Fusion Sampler, I've got a Fusion Sampler for each sequencer. So I got 7 Fusion samples out there that have the drum samples in one, the bass in another, the guitar in another, and that's just how I organized it. And and since I can go in different octaves, I can get to those samples. But that's why I liked the octave thing there. But again, I was talking about the sound here. The sound centers here all the time. I don't have it spread like I normally do. So I'm gonna have to either go back into the Fusion Sampler and take all those samples and take all the samples and pan them manually for each sample, which I can do. So the bass is off to the left hand side and the drums is kind of center right, and the typical kind of stuff I do when I'm recording with a DAW. So what this is doing, because each one of these sequences are tied to an instrument, and the instrument, each of the 7 instruments are all pointed to different Fusion sample packs, or Fusion samplers that I made with my samples in them. So that's where I've gotten to this week. So that would be nice if I could figure a way to get that out. Besides having all this, because this is pretty heavyweight. I got to have 3 samplers, and if I'm going to do this for each one, I'm going to have 3 times 7. I'm going to have 21 21 value setters and stuff just to pass a signal into it to change the octave. So so it would be nice to be able to just be able to listen to the octave changes coming from the sequencer, just like I do note triggers in some cases. Note triggers, I go ahead and listen to them, but by the time I hear a note trigger, it's too late. I want to have these texts change when I change the octave, not when I pick my first note in the new octave. So that's where I'm at.